This is TWiT.
So what is new in this new build?
Yeah, so I did well, not in this new build, but in this version. So in other words, as this version, the development of it is winding down. Last week, kind of inspired by the conversation we had last week, because we had the Chris Hoffman list, which was comprehensive, and Microsoft maintains its own lists at doc.microsoft.com of all of the new features that are coming as well, and as you would expect, comprehensive. I kind of ran through all those and cherry picked the things that I thought were the big deals. And we did cover some of them last week for sure. But I just wanted to make sure. I made a list of 10 items. And I don't know that we talked about all of these things. We talked about Cortana and search being separated, for example. I remember that, the pause update thing for 7 days, which I thought was amazing. There's a couple other things that I think are really important to people in this release. So in Windows 10 today, you can uninstall 5 or 7 of the inbox apps, the apps that come with the system. In 19H1, that list is being expanded dramatically, and it's going to include almost a dozen more apps that you can uninstall. So if you don't want to see that stuff in the start menu, you prefer that kind of uncluttered look, you never want those things to pop up by mistake. Whatever it is, you can get rid of a bunch more of those apps. And I think that's a big deal, even though it's just kind of a small thing. A bunch of UX stuff, the simplified start menu, there's more fluent throughout. I think that stuff's cool. I think this thing is starting to mature from a look and feel perspective. Finally, it's only taken 5 years, but it's getting there. One feature that is actually been in Windows 10 for a little while now, and most people don't know it exists, it's not enabled by default, so that's one thing, is what used to be called the Cloud Clipboard. And what this is the ability to cut and paste across multiple PCs and in a limited fashion between your smartphone and your PC as well, which is really cool. You actually have to go into settings to enable it, for one thing. And then there's a special keyboard shortcut that you use. Instead of Control-V to paste, you do Win key plus V, and this dialog pops up with the last several items that are in the clipboard across your PCs. And so in this version, they're actually improving that so that that dialog you see is just nicer looking, and it better displays what you're going to paste. So it kind of has a new look and feel to it. So that's cool. It's just something I don't think most people really know about. And then the other one, then again, it's like one of those small things, but there's a feature called Screen Snip in Windows 10. It used to be called the Snipping Tool. And I always thought of it as kind of a superfluous function because it was like the 11th way you could do screenshots in Windows 10 or Windows. But the way this thing works now is it has a unique keyboard shortcut. So it's usually Win key plus Shift plus S. When you type that, a little toolbar comes up at the top, and it lets you choose between the different types of paste or screenshots you can do. So it's window and full screen, obviously, but also rectangular or arbitrary shapes. And the nice thing about this now is that you can also map it to print screen. So if you just want this to become,
cool.
Yeah, it's.
I use the Snipping Tool all the time. What do you use for your books? Do you use that?
I use a variety of different things. I was using, I think it was called, I'm going to get this wrong. It's a third-party app in the store called, I think it's called ShareX. I've used a lot. I just used the built-in, copy paste stuff a lot. For the books, I have to get the mouse cursor into a lot of shots.
So you can't use.
I often, sometimes I'll Photoshop it in just because it's a little easier. But honestly, going forward, I think I'm going to use this thing. The way this thing works now. And you're seeing this across a lot of Microsoft apps in Windows 10. They're starting to add these little toolbars to the top, that are just a quick way to access the various functions of this thing. It's pretty nice. So it's kind of a good tip if you're using the Snipping Tool, or not the Snipping Tool, but the new version, Screen Snip. I always forget the name of this thing. What's it called? Screen Snip. Yeah. If you go into accessibility settings and settings, ease of access keyboard, you'll see a use print screen button to open screen snipping.
That's great. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's a neat little tip. So
because just some good stuff in there. The default print screen is okay, but it's not what I want to do.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but it's like this is just. I think for most people, this is how it should work. I wouldn't be surprised if they just made this default in the future. It's way more sophisticated than I pressed a button. What happened?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I just want to highlight that because there's some big bang stuff in there. Windows Sandbox and all that kind of stuff, but. There's a bunch of little things that I think when you add them up, this turns into a pretty interesting release overall.
I know. When we talked about it last week, I was surprised because we were thinking, it's just a bunch of incremental stuff. But then when we started going through the list, I'm like, no, there's actually a lot. in there that's useful.
But it's not just a lot, it's good stuff, right? So in the past, we would have said something like this big new thing called Windows Mixed Reality. That doesn't impact almost anybody.
No.
These are features everyone needs to know about and should and then should use, right? Like the cloud clipboard stuff, the screen snip stuff. I mean, these are things that improve features that have been in Windows for decades in meaningful ways, not brand new stupid things. And I think that's pretty notable.
Nice.